Stand or Deliver, supposedly the biggest show of the year for NXT. And none of that was represented here tonight based on the visual. And it's the Icon back with an NXT wrestling review. Happy Easter to everybody. It is Easter Sunday as we're recording this. I already went to church, and now I'm here doing my review for NXT, which I watched last night. And before we get started, hit the notification bell, like it or subscribe. Check out my other reviews for my other wrestling shows and my other television shows like Daredevil Born Again. And let's get started. We had a pre-show match. We had a pre-show match. Some things are like, thank you TNA and NXT for still doing pre-show matches. Though this one was actually very underwhelming because it was the group known as The Birthright versus what is it? Ren Sinclair, Hank and Tank, and some random black dude that I'm not familiar with yet. I feel like Ren Sinclair could have had a speed match, like at Stand and Deliver, even if it was on the pre-show. Because the thing with Ren Sinclair is like, I want to like Ren Sinclair, but she's just too goofy. Like, she needs to tone back the goofiness, but the fact that she's getting a little bit more serious as a wrestler, it's I'm like hot and cold with Ren Sinclair sometimes. The rest of them I honestly didn't care about. I mean, Ariana Grey, she looks good. And I do like the fact that she dropped the whole like pageant beauty queen shit and she stopped being as goofy. Like now that she's a heel, like she's a little bit more serious. And I do like that about her. But the rest of the guys, I'm just like, I need them to actually do something. First and foremost, I mean, and then to make it worse, if you're trying to make the Birthright a thing, and if the Birthright is supposed to be like this new faction that's coming up, they lost to 4 random people. So now whatever you were hoping to get out of the Birthright, you kind of killed it like right out the gate, because they said those 4 randos should not have been able to beat. If this is your Birthright and you're like 3rd, 2nd, 4th, 5th generational wrestlers, you shouldn't be losing to these random people. But but that was that particular match. And then it moves on to the actual NXT card. One of the things about the NXT card that bothered me, the fact that Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker were not on this show is criminal. And aside from Sol Ruka on the inside, there was no black people like on this pay-per-view at all. So that right out the gate, that lost points for me as far as like the show, because I'm like, yo, where the black people at? But then the arena itself, because they're in St. Louis, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year at NXT Stand and Deliver, there was like a big stadium. Like there was like this whole thing. They had the giant screen, I'm trying not to say this as a negative. Stand and Deliver looked like TNA because it looked like a regular Thursday night Impact. I'm just like, what happened to the budget? It just looked really, really cheap. Like it looked low budget, and again, shit. Thursday night Impact looks better. It looks better than Stand and Deliver, and I don't. And when TNA has their pay-per-views, and that's how their arenas look, I don't hold it against TNA because I know they hit a down period and now they're back on the rise. So TNA is building back up to that status where they can have bigger arenas and like bigger events. But to have like NXT is better than that. And it's not even about them being taken off of WrestleMania weekend. I like the fact that they were taken off of WrestleMania weekend, because having Stand and Deliver at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon was actually annoying to me. So, I mean, maybe they should have did it the week before WrestleMania, not 2 weeks before. Although TNA Genesis is next week, so it's going to be like NXT Stand and Deliver, TNA Genesis, and then WrestleMania. But I mean, NXT probably should have been a week before, maybe not 2 weeks out. But it's like the arena just killed it for me. Like, it really just killed it for me. And then the fact that, like I said, like two of my favorites in Jada Parker and Kalani Jordan weren't even on the show. And I'm like, a lot of my other favorites already got called up to the main roster. So I'm like, there's really nobody left on this show for me to watch. So I actually need to start looking for new people to cheer for, like on NXT. And Lola Vice is a good candidate, which leads us to our first match at NXT Stand and Deliver. It was JC Jane, Lola Vice, and unfortunately Kendall Gray. I am not a fan of Kendall Gray. I understand the girl is good. I'm not blind. I can recognize the girl is good. The problem is she jumped the line. And I'm not a fan of people jumping the line. There is no way Kendall Gray should have been getting pushed this hard over Callie Armstrong. And they did announce that Callie Armstrong will be making her debut on NXT, thank God. But she was the first Evolve Women's Champion. The same push that they're currently giving Kendall Gray, they should have given that same push to Callie Armstrong. There's a reason why they chose there's a reason why they chose Kendall Gray over Callie Armstrong. It's obvious. I'm not going to get into it. We literally all see it with our own eyes, which is exactly why Tiffany Stratton, who at the time had no talent in the wrestling ring whatsoever, she got called up over Kalani Jordan. I mean, the Vince isms are still alive. But anyway, but that's it. But with that being said, but the girl actually is good. Like, she is good in the ring. Like I said, I just don't like the fact that based on how, based on how she looks, she just gets to jump the line here. So, and then like they squeezed her into this match didn't need her in it because it could have just been Lola versus JC straight up because they already had beef from somewhere before where Lola lost to JC Jane for a title. So it should have just been a one-on-one match. But anyway, this is what we got. And the match was good. It was definitely a good back and forth. The fatal influence, and by fatal influence I mean Fallon Henley, because that other girl don't do shit. She got in. I mean, obviously she got involved. Like, Ren Sinclair came out and tried to like help or whatever. The end of the match was actually pretty good because JC Jane hit her her spinning forearm punched Kendall Gray right in the face, knocked her out of the ring, and then they had that ramp thing, like that high ramp that goes from like the screen and then all the way to the ring. So it's not an aisle, it's a ramp. I hate that. Like, even back in the days when WCW used to have their matches in Atlanta in the Omni, I always hated that. Like, I always hated that stage. But anyway, so she, JCJ, she does the whirling dervish. She knocks her out. Kendall falls out of the ring, and then Lola Vice hits her with the backspin. She gets the 1-2-3 victory, and for the love of God, thank you, Lola. Because I was like, honestly, if they would have put that belt on Kendall Gray, I would have stopped watching NXT. Like, I legitimately would have stopped watching NXT. So they did the right thing here. We have, we have a Latina as, NXT Women's Champion, which is great. And it is somebody that is deserving because Lola came a long way. Me personally, I probably would have chose Kalani Jordan, but I have no problem with Lola Vice and having Lola Vice because we had a heel champion, so I guess we have to have a face champion now because Kalani's a heel now, so we had a heel champion, now we got a face champion. So, and I want to see who she's gonna fight. Like, I want to see her defend that belt in underground matches. Like, I want to see some underground matches, but we'll see who her first challenger is, and it better not be fucking Kendall Gray. Like, Kendall Gray could go to the back of the line now. She had her chance and she failed. Like, she didn't win. Let's have some new people, because if we're trying to push new stars, let's, push some new stars. But, I do want to see Kalani and Jada Parker face Lola Vice for the championship. I just don't want the two of them to go first because because remember, whenever somebody wins a championship for the first time, their first challenger almost like never wins 99% of the time. So, but I got to think about it. Because like I said, like, I'm struggling aside from Lola Vice, but I'm kind of struggling right now to find, like a new female favorite for NXT, and a male favorite as well. So we're going to keep looking. But like I said, I definitely had no problem with this. The match was great. The match was excellent. The match seemed bigger than the stage that it was on. And kudos to Vice City for becoming the new NXT Women's Champion. The next match, I'm pretty sure, was a match that nobody cared about. It was the Los Americanos versus the Vanity Project or Swipe Right. Like, you already know I'm not a fan of the Vanity Project because the Vanity Project just seems like the 2.0 version of the Mean Street Posse. And none of them look like professional athletes that should be on a main stage. They look like performance center talent that still have to hit the gym and develop their bodies. And it's like their gimmicks are basically like, we're the rich white guys whose dads own a wing at Princeton University or something. And like the guys that are in the tag team, like, at least, like, although Jackson Drake does need to bulk up more, at least you can almost buy him as a, like, you can see, okay, eventually Jackson Drake, he'll get there once he tones up, once he muscles up a little bit more, puts on some knee pads. Maybe Jackson Drake, he'll get there. The other two, they look like they do Jackson Drake's taxes. They don't look like professional athletes. One guy looks like his tax broker, the other guy just looks like his manager, but they do work well in a tag team together. I mean, as far as the Los Americanos are concerned, I don't give a damn what the people of Mexico think. They're the bad guys. Because, I mean, the funny thing about the Grande gimmick, the El Grande gimmick, the El Grande Americano gimmick for both Kaiser and Gable is a heel gimmick. You're supposed, like, they're both heels. Kaiser was just a heel because he stole Gable's gimmick when Gable went out with injury. They're both the bad guys, but because Kaiser speaks Spanish, the people in Mexico, like, they cheer for him and they boo Chad Gable. So, but like I said, this is a heel versus heel tag team match, and the Vanity Project just got the tag team championships, so we knew they weren't going to lose. And that's exactly what happened. Like, the Vanity Project retained the tag team championships against Los Americanos, and that was it. So, I mean, honestly, this match should have been on the pre-show. Like, this should have been the pre-show match, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, aside from Hank and Tank and Dark State, there are no tag teams in the division. Well, there's an OTM as well, so maybe once OTM is done with Dark State, maybe we'll get OTM versus the Vanity Project. But at this point, NXT does need more male tag teams because that division is kind of lacking right now, aside from a couple of teams. Then next up, we had, for me, which was kind of the letdown of the night, it was Zarya versus the one-trick pony Sol Ruka. Y'all already know how I feel about Sol Ruka. I'm not a fan. She has one good move, and everything else about her isn't that spectacular for people to be drooling over. Like, people are online basically going gaga over talent that's good. Like, you take some, like just because somebody that's good does one thing that's great, they're like, oh my god, they're the greatest ever. And I'm like, nah, they just got like one thing. But Zarya versus Sol Ruka. This match was sloppy as fuck. I'm happy this feud is over. I hated this feud. I thought this feud was going to end with Zarya confessing her love for Sol Ruka, which is why she's been acting the way that she's acting. And I'm one of those people that agree this whole time Sol Ruka actually is the bad guy. Sol Ruka's outfit was complete trash. And, you know, I give Zarya credit. Like, the thing is, if we're breaking them up, the feud has to be over now because of the outcome. But if we're trying to establish Zarya, if Zarya, like, her entrance video was her, like, walking to NXT, like, over the desert. Like, this woman was presented like a monster and like a powerhouse. So she should have been throwing Soul all around the building, you know, like a rag doll. She kicked out of she kicked out of 2 Soul Snatchers. So I guess that is, you know, a nod to her strength, you know, like, I guess. But in all honesty, because of how this whole thing played out, Zarya should have won this match. Like, Zarya should have, because the thing is, you separated them finally. You're trying to push Zarya, like, because the people that like Soul already like Soul. Soul wasn't going to get hurt by not winning this match. Zarya winning this match would have elevated her more. It would have been just like, you know, she finally broke away from Soul and she's ready to do her own thing and she can finally move on to other people, and she could have attacked Lola Vice the first thing on NXT Tuesday. But instead now it's just like, well, you talked all that shit, y'all fought, she beat you, it's over. So Zarya pretty much did all that for nothing. Like, and I didn't like that because I felt like it would have elevated Zarya, you know, more had she got the victory. But, you know, they're precious Soul. And then see, and the thing about it is, for some reason, everybody's obsessed with Sol Ruka and Kendo Gray. I want to see who the fans are gonna pick, because that's how internet fans are. They're gonna turn on one of them when the day comes when Kendo Gray and Sol Ruka are in the ring, which is like the NXT darlings for everybody on the internet. Who y'all gonna choose when that shit happens? Because you gotta pick one. And for me, I'm probably not even going to watch the match because I don't care about either one of them. But yeah, but Zarya lost. Like, Zarya lost, Sol Ruka won. They said nothing happened. Backstage, Izzy Dame approached Sol Ruka, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I don't like Izzy Dame either. Like, everybody that I don't like is like front and center now on NXT TV for the most part, except for Lola Vice. But yeah, there's really not much to say. I mean, the match was sloppy. The wrong person won, you know, like, in my opinion, and you know, it's over because Izzy Dame approached Soul. I don't think Soul's getting called up, or maybe she'll just quickly have a match with Izzy Dane before she gets called up. JC Jane's definitely getting called up. I hope she takes Fallon Henley with her. The other girl can stay because she brings nothing to the table. But I said it's a weird place right now to see where people go from here. But I said, but that was this match. This was like the worst match of the night for me. As much shit as I talked about the Americanos match, like this was actually the worst match of the night for me. So we shall move on to the next one. I mean, another match that didn't deliver, for lack of a better term, was Miles Bourne versus Johnny Gargano. I initially was excited about this, but Johnny Gargano, he's a main roster star, so he wasn't going to win the North American Championship. And I would be honest, the match wasn't really, it was okay, but it didn't, a lot, with the exception of the women's match, a lot of things about this show wasn't stand and deliver worthy, and the bullshit arena honestly contributed to that. I think that the tone for the Miles Bourne Johnny Gargano match, the tone for this match would have drastically improved had Johnny come out to Rebel Heart. And I think if Johnny would have came out to Rebel Heart, the tone of this whole thing would have changed. But because he came out to his generic, main roster SmackDown, music, and it's just the whole match just kind of felt like, yeah. And then we knew Miles Bourne wasn't going to lose the belt. So, I mean, I was happy to see Johnny do something, but at this point, maybe they should bring back the Cruiserweight Championship on SmackDown and give that boy something to do. But I don't know. Is it Miles Bourne won, Johnny going back to SmackDown, and that was pretty much it. The light-skinned black dude in Dark State attacked Miles Bourne after the match. So I guess he figured, well, since I can't get the top prize, I'm going to go after the secondary prize. I mean, you already know about how I feel about him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I said, he was the nerd with the glasses, reading books and shit, and now I'm supposed to take him seriously, as like a thug, as a gangster. But whatever. Was it Saquon Sugars? he got upset with him backstage because he was like, all you do is just go after gold, and you're not worried about Dark State business, and they got their little thing going. So I mean, it's gonna be a good food. I'm like him versus Miles Bourne will be a good match. So I'm not really mad at that. But like I said, but other than that, that was pretty much it. We'll see what happens from there. Sweet heaven, another person that I didn't care about. There was a lot of people on this show I did not care about. Blake Monroe, Fake Monroe, Cringe Monroe versus Tatum Paxley. I don't care about Blake Monroe. Her acting is horrible. Like, if her gimmick is she's a bad actor, that she's doing a bang-up job. She looks like everybody else. They did a backstage segment where the announcer girl was blonde. Sol Ruka's blonde. Izzy Dame came in, she's blonde. And then they went into a program immediately with Blake Monroe, and I'm just like, my eyes hurt. Like, there's too much blonde. I'm like, can we find women that don't, like, all four of them looked like the exact same person, minus the tattoos. And I don't know. It's just like, I feel like the announcers are being told to hype her up because she's supposed to be beautiful, but it's just like, you're a basic blonde girl. Tatum Paxley, she's very pretty. She's full of energy. Like, I like her look. And, she can wrestle. She can go. She flips out of a lot of people's big moves, and I like that about her. And thankfully, they did the right thing, and Tatum Paxley retained the North American Women's Championship. So this is one thing. One thing I will say. A lot of the outcomes, the majority of the outcomes for this show, the outcomes I was perfectly pleased with and I was happy with. The problem is, it's like a lot of the people that are involved are just people that I'm not fans of, and I'm just like, it's just bad for me. Like, NXT needs to save me to to continue to watch this program because everybody that I actually rooted for is gone. Tatum was the reason why this match was even good at all, and although Blake Monroe tried to cheat her behind off, Tatum Paxley won. And it looks like they're trying to incorporate the Vanity Project with Blake Monroe, like they're going to be a stable. And if that happens, I'm going to fast forward every time they're on my television. But yeah, kudos to Tatum Paxley, and I hope to see her have new challengers, big challengers, as she proceeds with the North American Women's Championship. And the final match of the night was the NXT Heavyweight Championship match. Tony D'Angelo, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, and Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe. And, I'm okay with Joe Hendry, but I do kind of feel like they shitting on him a little bit as champion. It was a fatal four way, so it was all over the place. Obviously Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, they teamed up for a little bit, and then the two of them had beef. But in the end, thanks to a Tony D'Angelo spear, and this is a surprise, Tony D'Angelo did win the NXT championship from Joe Hendry. And I hope this means Joe Hendry is not going to the main roster, because I don't think Joe Hendry's gimmick works on the main roster. Joe Hendry on the main roster is slightly above Danhausen, whereas on NXT he can be a champion. So I hope that Joe Hendry stays on NXT. Ricky Saints or Ethan Page, one of them could get called up. I mean, Ricky Saints had two chances now to reclaim the belt, and he didn't win it. So, I mean, if they called up Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, I would be okay with that. Now, the head scratcher here is Tony D'Angelo. I don't know how I feel about Tony D'Angelo being champion. The problem with Tony D'Angelo being champion, I don't know what his gimmick is. First he was the Italian mob boss, and now he's just some random guy walking around in a leather trench coat in Florida that just beats up people. It's like, are you a hitman? Like, it's weird because I have nothing against the person winning the championship. The gimmick doesn't, his current persona doesn't say champion. It doesn't say, and if anything, to be like, he looks like a heel. Like, he looks like a heel champion, but he's parading himself around as like the face because he feels like he's righteous for what he's doing and try to take down all these people that wronged him. Where's Rizzo? Like, what happened to Rizzo? He gave up on trying to get revenge on Stax. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. But, and also, I mean, and this is just being honest, him winning was kind of underwhelming. Like, it wasn't, when he won, I wasn't like, oh my God, Tony D'Angelo, but I was just like, oh, they gave it to Tony. Okay. So like, the show was very like underwhelming. I said the women's match was really good. Like, the women's match was really good. Everything else was just kind of bland. And I'm sorry to say this. I mean, well, I'm not sorry to say this, but I feel like if there was more black people on this show, maybe the show would have been a little better. But a lot of the people that were on this show, there's just like no personality. Everybody, like, Soul's mic work sucks. Like, she has no oomph to her. She's just very like, yeah, well, I did this. And I'm like, bitch, fire up. Like, nobody's fired up. Like, that's the problem. Like, nobody's jumping around, getting the crowd fired up. Like, everybody's just kind of just like, yeah. So, and then the arena sucked. Like, I'm sorry, wherever you were in St. Louis, like, the arena sucked. On Red Eyes Entertainment, when we review something, we give it a yay, a nay, or an okay. And NXT Stand and Deliver, it was okay. It was okay. I mean, it was decent enough to where you could sit down and watch it and enjoy some wrestling, but at the same time, it wasn't special. Like, this did not feel like the biggest show of the year. This felt like one of their Tuesday night specials where they're just like, hey, we're doing the Great American Bash, but instead of making the Great American Bash a PLE on a Saturday night, we're going to have the Great American Bash on a Tuesday and just dress up the normal every week NXT arena. That's what this show felt like. This didn't feel like the biggest show of the year for NXT. But that was it. That was how I felt about it. And thank you for tuning in. So share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. What did you think about, like, did you like the pay-per-view? Did you think it was mid? Did you hate the pay-per-view? What are your thoughts on some of the things that I said? What are your thoughts on things that you watched? And we'll continue to talk about it. So check out my other reviews, because when TNA Genesis comes, we're definitely going to do a TNA Genesis review. And obviously we're going to do that WrestleMania, because the internet's in an uproar based on everything that's happening on the main roster. And it's like, I kind of feel the same way. Like, there are things that's happening on the main roster that I'm not a fan of, but at this point I just kind of feel like everybody just complains about everything. Like, I can understand you having a certain issue with a certain segment or a certain feud but it's just like y'all complain about every single segment on every single show. I feel like sometimes people just watch the show just to hate watch it, just to complain instead of just enjoying the shit that you're getting. But I said even with people involved, like I said, I don't like Blake Monroe, but I still watched the match and I gave it a fair look and just I tried to enjoy the performance that they put on. So, but like I said, share your questions, comments, and concerns, guys. Check me out on social media, on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, and YouTube, where you can leave your questions, comments, and concerns. And I'll see you guys for TNA Genesis. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Signing off for NXT Stand and Deliver. Until then, take care, and we're out this bitch.